audio or is it going to be audio visual?
It's audio visual. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tracy Takes On, the show that I talk about all things politics. I am joined by my guest this evening, Dr. Valerie McCray. I'm going to let her introduce herself here in just a moment. But while you are here, please like this video, share this video. We're still on our crusade for 100 members. We're at 74, so we need 26 to get to that triple number that I want to get to so bad. Remember that I'm having a scavenger hunt because I need a new computer, which I cannot afford. That is to register. You can also go to Tracy Media LLC, get the same link. However, I'm also going to go to the National Medicare for All March in July. So you can cash at me. Any contribution would be appreciated. Airfares are extremely high. I have some, but not all. So any contribution would be appreciative. Tonight's topic, we're going to talk about three distinctive things. We're going to talk about the hypocrisy of women in politics and what it takes. We're going to let Dr. McCray talk about her campaign and some of the hurdles that she experienced. And then we're going to talk about, because she's from Indiana like I am, what it's going to take to turn Indiana from a red state to a blue state. Those are three things we'll talk about. So, Dr. McCray, if you don't mind introducing yourself, I would appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'm Dr. Valerie McCray. I just got through turning in or wrapping up a Senate campaign. Our opponent is going to be, going unopposed to the ballots. We didn't make the ballot. There was two African American females that did not make the ballot. So there's only one person that's going to be on the ballot going up against Todd Young, which is unfortunate. I'm a psychologist by trade, so I came in this totally from a what do people need standpoint, totally from a standpoint of, okay, I've been out in the field, I've been in the prisons, I've been with these kids that shoot each other, I've been um, with the military. I still am with the military. I'm not in the military, but I work with the military. Um, so I see what the what happens with war. I see what happens with war on our streets, and I definitely see what happens in the aftermath of all of that. So coming from that experience, I just thought, okay, I need to get to Washington because a lot of the things that we're experiencing um, could be stopped at the policy DC level. So that was a lot of the concern with me. And also, Medicare for all was very important for me. It's still very important for me as well because it's just, and I think that's how we started our conversation was because of Medicare
Yes,
for all.
ma'am.
I did participate in the Medicare for All March last year in Washington, D.C. So you're in for a treat. It's a great group of people out there that are trying to make that happen. So it's always good to link arms with other uh, leadership or people that are, in the same vein. So you will enjoy Washington, D.C. Um, and
That's
hopefully we
if I
can
get to go, audience. Audience, if I get to go.
make
Commercial, you may proceed.
So everybody, let's make sure we get Tracy to Washington D.C. Um, just start looking for tickets now because it should be cheaper. If push comes to shove, we'll drive you to D.C.
We'll
I always
see.
try.
Now, Tracy does not do driving. If I don't fly, see, I'm not a good person to travel with. I already know it up front.
Well, I drive all the time to D.C. I
See,
have a
I
son.
can't stay away for an hour, so I don't even drive. If it's an hour or more, nope, I'm not going.
Just because you don't like to sit that long, or because
I get anxious. I start hyperventilating. I mean, I have problems driving to Bloomington. That's how bad
really
it is.
okay. Well, you'd probably need to get with one of my colleagues, or maybe I can help you through um, that anxiety you have about driving because you miss a lot when you fly. I'm also one of these people that don't mind getting lost. As long as I've got a tank of gas and tires that are not bald, I don't mind getting lost because I find some of the most spectacular scenes, scenery when I'm off the beaten trail. So I won't take you to a route that if you ride with me, I won't take you a route where I'm getting lost. But I travel with I have a dog, so I've always traveled with my animals. So I always have to. I don't want to put them on the airplane. It's just too much of a hassle. So that's another reason why I drive everywhere, just to make sure that they get out on the trip as well. So
Now,
um,
I do have a question for you in terms of women in politics because I have a whole rant about this because it really makes me so angry.
uh-huh.
But before we get to that, what is it that made you want to run for senator as opposed to governor?
Well, the reason why let me go back during my flight attendant days. I used to fly international, so I've been in a lot of different countries. Then also with with what I do for the military, I also see what goes on the globe, around the globe, as far as the wars and the aftermath of that, how women are treated in different nations. I wanted to impact that as well. When you're a governor, you're really focused on the state of Indiana, just the state of Indiana. When you're in the Senate, you're actually voting for policy that not only affects the United States but also getting money to Ukraine, for example, making sure they have their supports. That's voted through Congress. So just having a bigger umbrella, a bigger pack. Now, it was it's interesting because you have mentioned you mentioned the governor race. Couple people have been mentioning that to me, so I think maybe I need to file it somewhere like ding ding.
Yeah,
Maybe I
because
need.
he's Holcomb, thank you, cannot run anymore. Okay, this is supposed to be no, it's not. I'm progressive. He's not. He can't run. So this will be the perfect time for someone named
What do you
Dr.
mean?
Valerie McRae to run. I'm just saying. I'm throwing things out there. I'm just throwing things out there and seeing what sticks.
No, no. What do you mean he can't run?
He's turned out. He served 2 terms.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he served 2 terms, so he cannot, by definition, run for that seat. It is
Oh,
now an open seat,
okay.
and it's
So
what
we'll see if he's going to
two
be
years
running.
away.
Is it 2024? I don't know.
It's the same year as the presidential. Whenever we vote for president, we also vote for governor,
Okay.
and then
Well,
city council is the opposite.
there's so much that goes on in those races. It would be interesting to see what happens with the governor. I know there's probably people already got their eye on that particular position. Um, I don't know. I mean, that would be an option. That's something I will think about, Tracy, only because when I'm working in prisons, I'm also working in all these little small towns around the state of Indiana because a lot of the prisons are in the small towns. So I've worked in Logansport. I've worked in, and there's also residential treatment centers for the kids too. So I've worked in Richmond. I've worked in Peru. I've worked in, well, that's Miami County. I've worked way down south in, closer to Vincennes. That prison, what is that, Wabash prison? I've worked so many of the prisons, Rockville, a couple of the women's prisons, and that sort of thing. So I'm familiar with the pains that some of the small towns are going through, um, because there's nothing out, happening in their cities. So that's interesting as well. They do need you can tell that those used to be booming cities by the how do I say it, by the caliber or the you could tell there was money flowing through these cities because some of the older homes are just absolutely beautiful. You can tell that they've been abandoned or been neglected right now, but you can also tell that they used to be a really vibrant city, especially like Logansport. They have a beautiful city. Richmond has a beautiful city, um, but all those things, of course, have been they have to rebuild a lot of that because they just haven't had any. industries in those areas. So
Exactly. Well, we're getting to the first topic of discussion, the hypocrisy that society has on women who run for office. And there's two veins I want to go with this. Number one, the whole notion of women can't lead. I don't know who thought of this. I don't know whose idea this was, but I will still say, name me a war that a woman calls. I can't name any. That's my argument. Like, you can't name any. Stop saying women can't lead. We can't do anything you're doing. So why can't a woman run? The second contention that I want you to talk about is the standard that women candidates are expected to have, i.e., when Kamala Harris was running for vice president, a lot of attention was put on what she's wearing and who she's wearing and what she wear to the president. And I'm like, well, how about the policies that she's going to enact or try to help the president enact when she gets in the office? But no, we were simply focused on the cosmetic, and that doesn't happen to our
to the men,
our yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't happen to men. I was going to say our counterparts, but I'm not running for anything, so it doesn't happen to the men. So those are
no,
kind
it
of the
does
two.
not. They wear a blue
Uh,
suit and a tie everywhere. So the only difference is their tie. So by the nature of what they're wearing, it's just not enough, not anything to talk about. And it's definitely a concern about what women wear, how much weight they gain, what type of, I heard somebody even comment on somebody's red lipstick that it was the wrong color red. And then they were talking about, oh, Clinton, how she wore, yeah, what do you call it, kitten heels. I'm like, I wear kitten heels. I wear heels that are short as well. I mean, so
on
little things.
purpose. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like personal preference. I like the heels high. I'm sorry. I do. I'm gonna
Well,
personal preference.
I was very tall and I have not grown since like the third grade, third or fourth grade. So I towered over all the other kids in grade school. So um, I never learned how to walk in heels. I was always wearing flats so that I could not be so much taller than the little guys I had crushes on at the time. So walking in heels is not something I'm very comfortable in. So yeah, but I'm already 5'8", so I don't necessarily need heels, but I do wear them sometimes. But you can only stand so long in that. Some people are perfectly comfortable, not me. But see, here we are as candidates talking about heel heights and what we're wearing instead of what the policies are. Now, as far as what the women have to go through, one of the things that women in politics, one of the issues is money. Money rules everything in politics, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't like that. But females in general get about half of what the other male candidates get, right? And then you take Black females, and they're at the bottom of the totem pole as far as how much they get in donations. So it's not unusual for a man to write a check to another man for $1,000. And I think it's an ego thing. I've been thinking that men don't like to write little checks to men because there's this like chest beating thing that I can write a big check. There's some ego involved in that. But they will act, those same men will act like they're doing you a favor for writing a check for $50. Like, here you go, little lady. Glad to support you. When I know for a fact that they just wrote a check for $6,000 or $7,000 to someone else. Um, that's clearly not as qualified, but because they're male. So, and then money drives everything. So, Black females, for example, are just at the bottom of the totem pole for raising money. Also, Black females aren't the best at asking for money. That is not something that, by the time you're at the top of the your success ladder or halfway up, you've learned to kind of just not ask for anything. You're usually the one that's giving out, whether it's your time, whether it's whatever, whether it's your time, whether it's anything. But we've been taught not to ask for anything. If anything, we're more worried about, uh, you know, we're a little shy about asking people for money because you're like, oh, okay, they've got to pay those bills. They've got to get this out. I feel really uncomfortable about asking for money. So we have to get over that as well because we are just too empathetic to other people's plight to really ask for what we need, which is money to run a campaign because you can't really run a campaign without it. So,
Exactly. And my point, not to run your chopping your train of thought. I'm like, men have literally no problem asking for money. None.
no,
I mean,
no,
every time they open their mouth and they're a candidate, it's send me five. Well, they never ask for five, but they're asking for donations, large or small. Even the white female counterpart, I've got tons of emails from white females running for office, and they're always asking for money. And I wonder, is that something that, like you said, we're taught, to give, but not to ask? And that can be a hindrance because it
no.
unfortunately takes money to run a campaign, and it takes lots of money to run a campaign.
It takes a lot of money and a lot of grit. Now, the thing about it is that, how can I say it? Not only does it take a lot of money to run a campaign, but when you see those ads asking for money, those emails, those pleas, that takes money to even get to that point. So a
Exactly.
lot of times, a lot of candidates fail at the very beginning because they can't get the initial money to get the money to ask for more money. Does that make sense?
That
And
makes perfect sense.
everything builds on the next thing. So to buy a packet that where you can have access to everything, it costs money. Even the Democratic Party has what you call Vote Builder, and it's a database. And with that database, you can figure out who's the Democrats in your neighborhoods and what across the state. What are they likely to vote about? What in some databases you can find out what they donated, how much they donated to who. Um,
Exactly. Yep, we got a comment here on the side because this is
okay,
this is one I think you just literally said it. This is Theus, by the way. He's one of our supporters. This is a very good point. We are so taught to be humble. I'm like, no, you gotta ask for it because they don't have two answers. It's either yes, I'll give you money, or no, I won't give you money. Those are the only two possible things that could possibly happen. Maybe because I'm not scared to ask for it, but I'm
well,
like, okay, what, what are you doing? You ask because if you don't ask, you're not going to get. And if you can't get it, then how are you going to run for? And I don't want to run for office, Theus, so don't throw that in here in the discussion. No, I'm telling you now, don't do that. But it's like, okay, but that's what it takes. That's what it
that's the
takes.
case. And I think
Yeah.
that as you go along, you get a little bit better. But another thing too, you got to remember that we are also not at the table to hear other people ask. There's one thing to get an email, but it's quite another to be on a golf course or be at a board meeting or just whatever, and those little side conversations. We're not in those side conversations to really hear how that transpires. What's appropriate? How do you say it? How do you time it? What's an appropriate amount to ask? Um, how do you ask? You don't know that. People will say, well, you need to ask. Well, demonstrate it for me. And when you ask people to demonstrate, most women can't do it. They'll hem and haw and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, we're not at the table. We're not at the golf courses. We're not around when other people are asking for money. So that process is kind of lost to us. So even if you go through the different trainings, they will tell you, um, you need to ask and that sort of thing. But they don't really demonstrate actually asking a real life person. And so you would think that that would be just something minor, but it's actually pretty major if you've
No, it
never.
can be major. And I don't know, and that's why I also invited and I'm gonna get her name right, Hanifa
Uh
on.
huh.
And
Is
she
she
could
coming
not
on
be
the
here.
show?
She is not gonna be here today. She sent a statement, and the statement is gonna be online about what she went through in terms of her
Oh,
campaign and trying to
oh,
get
yeah.
yeah, that Indiana is a messed up state. I'm gonna say that right off the bat. But I wanted to get back to, let's see, hold on just a moment. We got Okay, now, Thea, I'm gonna have to have you explain that to me. You know, I'm not the brightest. Just put it in simple, because I'm like, huh, what? I think I know what you're saying, but I don't 100% know.
I'm looking at that question as well. The thing about it is that we don't have the, especially this last line about blood connections, um, can't stand up to theirs. That is true. A lot of times, remember when you have these packs, um, a lot of times somebody can write you a $10,000 check, but they're writing it for four different people in their family, right? Because you can
Right.
only donate a certain amount, supposedly. Um, there's ways around it by tapping into all your family uh, stuff. You might have 20 people, that can give $2,800 in your family alone. The thing about it is that we don't have that deep pocket generational wealth that allows us to really bank on some things that we should be able to bank on. What we need to do as people, if we're talking about the African American population or whether we're talking about the female population, whatever population we're talking about, we understand the concept of tithing at church. We have to do the same thing with our um, politicians. We have to learn how to take a certain amount, even if it's $5 or $10, and put that aside or send that to that person because every little bit counts. Um, Counts a lot in an election. So people, if they can't afford to write big checks, that $10 a month or $25 a month, if it comes consistently, you can run a campaign. If you have 1,000 people, and that's not very many, that pays out $25 a month, you know that you can meet payroll for 4 or 5 people um, for that month because you've got
Yeah.
stable
Now,
money coming.
when you hold on, we got another comment. Okay, think of me this. Oh, okay, thank you. Because I was like, and then what? And then what? Okay, so you talked about that when you first started your campaign for senator. Is it 4,500 total signatures that you have to get?
This is the thing. You have to get 500 good signatures per congressional district. What
And
that really means is that you need to get twice as much and sometimes three times as many. Now,
right,
if you have Vote Builder, which is that mechanism, you can knock on doors. If you have that type of staff that you can knock on doors, already know that person is registered. You already know that person is a Democrat. But that takes a lot of manpower to go knock on doors, find those particular people and get their signatures. Most people get signatures at different events or different parties or events. When you get signatures at, say, an outdoor event, half of those signatures, if not, are not good signatures. They're not either registered at that address, they're not registered at all, or they've written their name so wacky that you can't read it and nobody can read it because if they can't read it, they can't count it. So a lot
right.
of the signatures, we probably, for Marion County, for example, I probably turned in 11 or 1,200 signatures, but half of them weren't any good. So
Okay,
we
and we
always
have.
do
Oh, sorry. Go
that.
ahead. I did not mean to interrupt. How many?
There's,
You think I
there's
would
not,
know this? There's nine. I thought for
there's
some
not
reason I thought 11. So that's where I'm getting 4,500. I'm like, okay, because I'm multiplying.
Yes, it's 9 times 5 is 4,500. So you have, where do you live, Tracy? I forget.
Marion County, District 7.
Okay, you're in 7. So up north in the Gary area, that's District 1. In Porter County, District 2. Going over to your right, by the time you get to District 2, you're talking about um, Elkhart, South Bend.
And
District
yep,
3,
Mishawaka area.
Allen County over in the right-hand corner, which would be Fort Wayne. That Fort Wayne, Allen County area. Then you're coming down and you've got District 4, Lafayette, Indiana, cross, you've got Indianapolis, above Indianapolis, like, what's above it? Hendricks County.
Anderson, Muncie, uh,
Yeah, Anderson, Muncie.
Greenwood. Yeah, I'm like, Greenwood.
Greenwood is actually in six, and the
Okay,
sixth district is the hardest district to get, and they made it even harder because people don't realize what do you call it?
gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering does. So, for example, they gerrymandered uh, Muncie out of District 6. Now, that is the strongest Democrat hold in District 6. And so now District Muncie, which is Ball State area, is now in District 5. So those votes wind up getting co opted into District 5. That leaves District 6 practically all red. And so you
Yeah.
still have to get those
And
signatures in
now good
districts.
luck finding 500 Republicans that are going to sign a Democratic petition to be on the ballot. That's probably not going to work.
Right. It is very, very hard to get District 6. And I'm sure everybody would agree with that. We actually had some women in District 6 that said, oh, we got it for you. Don't worry about that. You worry about the other areas. They didn't collect a single signature after that. So we thought we had District 6, and apparently we did not.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
we know seven. Seven is
that
that's
was a piece of
basically yeah, that's the easy one. That's just basically Indianapolis because there's
Yes,
really
we actually got twice. We got seven twice. Now, um, the reason why my campaign, we start off really, really strong, and actually, some of the earlier polls had me way ahead of the other candidates. Um, so I think I became a target at that point. Um, I don't know, but we had someone within our campaign that seems to have flipped. And so all the signatures we thought we had going into December, all of a sudden we're starting from scratch. A long story, but we basically were running all around the state, starting from scratch in the middle of the winter with COVID ramping up, that Omicron ramping up. We literally had to start all over. Um, and then how do you sue somebody for signatures? How do you quantify signatures? So they did a good job as far as sabotaging the campaign. We weren't able to recover everything. And of course, McDermott's camp was ready to pounce on that. You know, as soon as we had the hearings, as soon as we turned everything in. The funny thing about this, what people don't know is that even if you're short, a little bit short, or a lot of bit short, or whatever, if no one challenges you,
you can be on the ballot, right?
you're still good to go. If
Yeah, you can.
nobody challenges you. But
But
McDermott had
mhm.
one of his buddies to challenge our
And it would never be him himself. Oh no, he's got to get some. See, being
oh,
sarcastic. Stop that.
oh yeah, we got the guy to admit that he's been friends with McDermott for 20 years. They probably went to college together. They're up in the same area.
And
So
that's the sad thing. There's not going to be a primary, so we're not going to get to hear, and I
you're not
did some,
going to get to be able
yeah,
to hear
right. We're
Hanifa.
not going to be able to hear all the candidates. And I would like to hear all the candidates, but if I want Todd Young out, which is the goal because he needs to go, I'm going to be forced to support this corporate Democrat that doesn't hold any of my values. So I'm like, okay, what's the point of this?
Yeah, it's going to. A lot of people will stay home for that, and that's unfortunate. I think either Hanifa or I would have brought some energy. We were bringing energy to the campaign, to the whole thing. So
And according,
without
yeah,
us,
according to her, oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I know you're fine. What were you saying? Go ahead.
Um, I know you said, well, we got some comments flowing in here. Oh, hello, Anna. And Marlon, we really need to stop skipping names for voters because you don't know who they are. The people are skipped are the ones that are writing and passing laws. That's so true. That's so true, but that's for education. Or
So
people
what is
just go
what is he
straight
talking about
tickets.
skipping names?
When you okay, I think I'm describing this, Marlon, so correct me if I'm wrong. When most people go into the ballot and they see just names, they either vote straight party and they don't look at the politics of the person running, or they literally just skip it and vote for the main offices. And I've had people tell me that.
Yeah, and then most people vote basically on just name recognition alone.
Yep. Is
So
it
they
easy to
people
spell, or do I know it?
right, right. You know, can you just check it? Can you recognize it? So it's name recognition. So hopefully by this next election, when we go into 2024, whether it's for governor, since you brought that up, or whether it's for Senate, name recognition will be a lot better this time around because I raised a lot of that hearing was blasted all over the state. So, you know, another 20,000 people watched that hearing and saw us operate. Hanifa and I think we probably scared everybody because Hanifa and I are officially opponents. But in that hearing, we locked arms and we rocked it. We didn't prevail, but we got our point across. He came across from the legal standpoint, and I came across from the humanitarian standpoint. And between the two of us, we got a point across that we believe that we were robbed, exactly, you know,
And
for
it doesn't make sense.
better word.
It's just you said and I'm talking about McDermott. He has to be scared of something to stop. Why not? If I'm running for office, if I'm running, I'll debate anybody. I don't care who you are, what
I
party you're
don't think
from.
he could have. I don't think he could have wanted. I don't think he could have been.
I think that's
I don't
a
think he could have beat
bad.
me in any way. I don't know if you've his
And I think he
listeners.
knows that. And that's why he was
Oh
so,
yeah, that's
oh,
a good
let me
strategy.
send my little friend and let me do this so I don't, because I can't debate. When people don't debate, or at least engage in a discussion, that means they're running scared because they don't know what they're talking about, or they're running scared because they don't know what they're talking about. It's that simple. You should want to, and you're all Democrats ideally, so you should always want to engage in the discussion. And whoever the people vote for, okay, that's perfectly fine. If you didn't win in a fair, you lost in a fair manner, I'm pretty sure you would have said, okay, this guy he beat me, it was legitimate, let's go support him. But the way he
Yeah,
did it, I'm like, oh no, you can't.
I would have a difficult time supporting him. I'm not sure. You know, the other thing is, who do you vote for? Do you vote for Todd Young or do you vote for Tom McDermott? Um,
And there's a third
and
option.
that thing about voting for someone just because they belong to the same party that you vote for, I think we need to get away from that. Um,
Exactly.
I think we need to vote on character and we need to vote on policy and character. And if that person is not of good character, I don't see voting them in. So, you know, I don't know. I do want to put a plug in for Hanifa because what Hanifa has decided to do, and I opted out of this option, is to be a write-in candidate.
Yes.
That you can write her name in. Now I'm hoping, I think she's hoping that she can just put her initials down, that her initials can just go down or something similar and misspellings can go down because her name is not the easiest name to
It's
be.
not. Because I was like, is it
It's got
Hanee?
a lot of double E's and double A's, double E's. It's not the easiest name to remember or to spell. It's easy to recognize because
Yes.
once you see it,
Yep.
you know,
Once you
you
see it, you know it.
oh,
But
absolutely. It would stand out as to recognize it, but to actually write it in, to remember to write it in, she's going to have a little bit of a challenge. So it's going to be a lot of training everybody and putting her name in writing. Her campaign needs to be very, at this point, visually written with her name so people could see how it's written. I don't think she should, I think that she could petition to allow people to write her name anything close to that spelling so she can just say, okay, this spelling, this spelling, this spelling should go. We'll see
yeah,
how that goes.
yeah,
Indiana Election Board is really, they're
full of
nice
crap.
people. So they
I'm
seem to
sorry.
be
I'm just like, oh, you can
nice
tell. I'm
people. I
trying
don't,
not to go off. I'm trying to be respectful. You're a doctor. I don't want you to think, oh, she's on. But I've heard stories of supported candidates who we've had a hard time, and it's like, nope, it's got to be this way. Like, no, the guy's name is literally Robert Smith. How hard can that be? But if they say Bob Smith, which everybody knows Bob is a nickname of Robert, oh no, we're throwing it out. So I already know about the Indiana election board.
Oh yeah,
Unfortunately,
it can be interesting. Even things like whether or not, because out in the real world, I just people just call me Dr. Val, Dr. McCrae, Dr. this, whatever. But you can't have the doctor on a ballot. You can't
nope.
do that. So Woody Myers, who's a brilliant man, when he was running for governor, he wasn't able to put Dr. Woody Myers. Um, and he's got some world renowned cover. I mean, that because of some stuff he did with the AIDS population back in the day. So he's got some notoriety. I mean, with Oprah and all that stuff, but he's not allowed to put Dr. Woody Myers on the ballot. Nor can I
But
put
yet,
Dr.
yeah.
Valerie on the ballot.
But yet, when Evan By ran, he ran as Evan By and not Birch Evans By, which is his actual legal name. See, that's the point. See, that's the type of stuff I'm talking about.
Well, as long as you're consistent, you can write how you want it on the ballot. You can determine how you want your name on the ballot, but you cannot write the doctor and that sort of thing on there, from what I understand. So we sent it out, Dr. Valerie McCrae, and we had to go back and change all those signature pages to just Valerie McCrae.
Yeah, we got some comments. They're rolling in here, so let's get to. Oh, this one I definitely agree with. This one I definitely. It's someone need to get details of research to these people. It won't come from anyone else. Tap into local organizations. They do research when they feel like it, but that's my opinion. So I'm just gonna. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll skip that one. No, you cannot, Marlon. You don't live in Indiana, and I have an easy name to misspell. No, no, no.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people too, you can write anybody's name. I mean, for president, a lot of people will write Donald Duck or Michael Jackson or they'll Mr. T or whatever. You can write in what you want, but unless you fill out paperwork to say count those ballots, there's some paperwork that the writing candidates have to fill out to make sure that they actually count those. Um, on the ticket. So, and that's in July. So anybody who wants to be a write-in candidate, just make sure they get the paperwork in by
Yeah,
July.
like every possible name. TRACY, IEEECY. No, 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 no. Let's see.
It says you're going to make Tracy mad if you
Yeah,
continue on.
this whole strange Tracy run for office is coming from both Theus and Marlon, and I'm like, stop. This is the silliest of ideas. I don't have what it takes. You definitely have what it takes. I'm like, mm-mm.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. I, you know,
I
I don't. I think it's a matter of having an opinion and a voice and be willing to say what you mean. You know, there's some diplomacy
and
that's
that's what I
involved.
don't have.
I know it's hard. It is hard. You really have to worry about almost everything you say because people will twist it and turn it and flop it around. I tend to, when I go out, I drive my staff crazy because I never repeat one speech after the next. I usually go in impromptu. I will go in prepared with a speech, but wind up doing something totally different. And that's where me and Donald Trump might have something in common because I tend to just go and just do me. Um,
So you're trying to make me throw up because we were doing really good by not mentioning his name, and we
only because that's the only thing we would have in common as far as going off script. Um, that'd be the only thing we have in common. Now, let me go back a little bit. I actually got into the presidential race, and I don't know if were aware of that or not. And this was in 2020. And the reason why is because I work in prisons with the craziest of the craziest of the craziest folk, for lack of a better word, the what you call the seriously mentally ill. And I'm comfortable in that realm, no big deal. But I think that when Donald Trump and that whole thing came about and watching that, I felt like, wait a minute, we don't have a psychologist in the office. We don't have a psychologist in the Senate because right now this is looking really crazy. And I think I know crazy when I see it. And that was scaring me, some of the things that I was seeing with Donald Trump. And I was like, hey, they need to have at least, this is crazy. We need to at least have a psychologist uh, in the Senate so that we can actually attack this thing when we see crazy coming up from a standpoint of, hey, this is crazy. This is bizarre. So that's originally how I threw my hat in there, was just sort of this thing was somebody needs to be there, a psychologist needs to be in the Senate, because this is nothing is right about that. Wait, what? Why can you not be a doctor?
She can be. Oh, go ahead. You answer it.
Oh, you can be a doctor. What you can't do is put the doctor on the ballot. You can't put the DR on the ballot when people are voting. Does that make sense? You can. There's doctors. I mean, there's a few doctors that are senators and attorneys or whatever. It's just that when your name is on the ballot, um, they take the DR off, and you're voting for just Valerie McRae. So that's what I meant by that. I'm sorry for the confusion.
So we're gonna get to the last section of this, and I've really enjoyed having you on here. I'm like, okay, what else do I have to? Because I want to keep on here long, but I want to talk about. Oh, we got one more comment. Okay, I'm gonna answer Marlon's question. He's saying, but why? Because Indiana is stupid. Thank you. That's my answer. I know that's not gonna be your answer. I know if I ever decided
I
to
don't know.
run
It's
for
a
office.
rule somewhere. Something
Yeah,
you can't
I know
prefix.
that's one.
Maybe nobody can have a prefix. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, and Theus also answered the question way more intelligently than I did.
Yes.
See, I just give
You know,
answers like, okay, this is what I did.
bias, but I think that for me, we're having to undo the negative bias. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
that just the doctor might help to even that out a little bit, because you're already behind the eight ball being a female, being a black female. People are going to question your intelligence just based on just being a black female. We saw how that went with the judge that just got confirmed for the Supreme Court, Katanji. Even with all her credentials, she's knocked down some pegs. So it would be nice. I mean, it might make voters seem more biased, but feel more biased. But if you've earned that, you should be able to use it because you actually earned that.
Okay.
So it's a
Mm-hmm.
lie to not
Yeah.
include that. It's a lie
Yes.
to present yourself as just Valerie McRae when you actually have that title that you worked for, and that you might have a different frame of mind because of that.
Yeah.
And we got an eye doctor in the Senate. He's a complete idiot. Well, I don't know which one that is, but
That's Senator Rand Paul. That's who he's talking about.
ah yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he's got some issues. But mine is more in the mental health realm. So uh, it's a different kind of doctor.
So I want to talk about specifically how Indiana, the reddest of red states, I think it's even redder than Texas in terms of our core values.
Uh huh.
What steps, I have all kinds of crazy ideas. What kind of steps can a candidate, a future candidate, someone who wants to run for Senate or governor or some sort of statewide office, well, no, I'll rephrase it. So there are some things that I think that a candidate should do if they're trying to be senator, a United States senator, or governor, or lieutenant. And one of the things that always bothers me, especially on the Democratic side, is they don't try. I'm like, you had a great candidate for governor. Why is it that you just waited 2 weeks before the election to advertise that he's running? That would have been really good if people had known he was running.
I have found there's the Democratic people and there's a Democratic Party, which is a machine that runs separately, in my opinion. Um, I don't think they do a good enough job of backing the candidates, especially the statewide or the bigger candidacies. They do a little bit better on some of the local campaigns, mainly because they don't have a lot of money to support the bigger candidates anyway. But they're looking for the candidates to give to the party, not for them to give to the candidates. So they're looking at candidates that make a lot of money they can give to the party. Um, so it's kind of a different type of relationship. But I think you're right in that as far as the color of the state, we keep saying that it's really red. We were purple. We were blue for Obama. We
That was a yes. And I'm going to interrupt you, but they did something that I think is really important. They made up in their mind they were going to take a red state and turn it blue.
they went
And
out
then
and
after that, they were just like, okay, it's Republican. Like, okay, no, do that again. And that's the difference. We did vote for Obama as president. It wasn't a huge margin, but he did turn the state. That's because the Democratic Party had some sense and said, okay, we're going to go into these little communities and we're going to
did people
flip this.
register? Uh,
Yes,
the first time voters registered. The thing about it, I think that a lot of people assume that because Indiana is so called red, that it's like a dark red, you know. I think it leans towards purple more so than anything. I work when I'm working in these small towns. The assumption is you're going to run, and I do pass a lot of some Confederate flags here or there in Indiana. But I've worked with some people. I'll give you a case in point. Um, in Logansport, I was working with what I thought were just good old boys. You know, I'm usually the only black person around the table in some of these small towns. Um, you know, because they have the morning meetings, and you know all the heads of their departments are here at this. All the departments heads are around the table, and I'm usually, you know, usually the head of the clinical or the psychology department or the mental health department, and I'm around the table with the warden and all the different people, maintenance or whatever. So anyway, one of the maintenance guys, the main maintenance guy, you know, they come in with he's normally got tools all around his belt, and you know his belly's hanging over, and you know, kind of rough looking. But one particular day, he came in and it looked a little awkward because he had on his tie and he had on a suit that you could tell used to fit way back when, but he, you know, same suit he probably wears to every wedding and funeral. Um, but he came, he was grinning, he was so excited. And I said, "What is going on?" He said, "When I leave here today, Doc, I get to go and adopt my son. He's been our foster child, but he gets to be ours." And you know, as of today, you know, he's officially my son as of today. So he was waiting to go to court. He goes, not only that, he says there's a good opportunity that we might also get Malik's sister. I'm like, Malik, what color is this child? He says, oh, he's black. So, you know, the the assumption was that in these little small towns, these good old boys or whatever, their assumptions are that they are red. And a lot of them just, there are some people who don't care about color and they want fairness and they want the best opportunities for all the kids. So it was just interesting. There was another guy, same kind of description, older guy, and he had foster kids from all different nationalities, and uh, he was really coming to me because he says, you know, I got this little timid little gal. You know, there's always a little gal. I got this little timid little gal, and all I get, you know, I get a horse for all my children. Um, I gotta find a timid horse for my timid little girl. I said, let me see a picture. Sure enough, little chocolate little baby. In these little small towns, there's some people that really care about these kids and really care about people. And we're just assuming that when we go off in these small towns, that we're assuming that they are these racist people. And it's not exactly the truth. It's just that the racist, red stated people, those MAGA people, are just the louder people. And I think we make our mistake by assuming that the state is red. It's just like some of them are red because they just don't know any better. Because we haven't knocked on their door and said, "Hey, we're alike. There's some things that we have in common. And
Exactly.
find that commonality." Um, a lot of times candidates don't have the money or the time to do that. So it's like, okay, let's figure out where we got the most votes and strategically work around this, which is a
Yeah,
mistake in the law.
right. Because most candidates running for state office in Indiana, they focus, if they're trying to focus on the black vote, they only go 5 counties: Lake, whatever county Evansville is in. Oh, Vanderburgh. I was like, wait a minute. I know this. I know this. Lake, Vanderburgh, maybe St.
Edinburgh is Evansville.
Yep. St. Joseph's. If they're smart, they're gonna do Marion County anyway because if you can't win Marion County, I don't care who you are,
If
you're
you
just
do,
out
if
of
you do
luck.
Edinburgh, Monroe County, Allen County,
And Monroe. Yeah, that's it. That's like, okay, we'll
Monroe,
just get those.
Marion County, you can get Tippecanoe County because Lafayette, because Purdue is there. You can kind of get that county. You can go up and get Gary, the Gary area, Lake County. You can get, yeah. So they really just target certain places. You
Right.
can win with that because it's dense and you can get those votes. But
But the
alien,
turnout, yeah, the turnout in those 5 places has to outnumber all the, what, 87 other counties?
yeah,
Because if there's not, if we got 92 counties, if like we just named 5, so you got all those 5, you still have these other 82 you have to get. So the voter, either the voter turnout has to be so tremendously large to suppress that vote, or you could just work the other 82 counties. Now you have to focus on the 5 because again, you'd be silly if you say, oh, I'm not going to campaign in Indianapolis. Okay, you really running for? You're missing the biggest city in the state. That doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense either to disregard Rising Sun and Shipshawana and Kokomo and all the other cities like you're totally taking them off the map. Well, you could bring them aboard and then you can expand your base. But it's like, again, I say the Democratic Party, just especially in our state, they don't even try. And it just drives me crazy. I'm like, what do you
now, I will
exist
say
for?
this though. I will say this though. One of the things, the mood in the state among the red states, those people that are more or less that MAGA group, they're mean. They're mean. They
Exactly.
not like they are willing to just have a conversation. They can be just mean. They don't want to hear anything a lot of people have to say. So people are a little bit shy about going into those areas. Um, I think you have to take a team with you, a pretty diverse team, and a team and members from those areas on your team, because just going in there dry
Exactly.
is really, really difficult. Um, we were in a few parades around the state, and when they were in red counties, I mean, you would really get some ugly stuff. Uh, so it's a challenge. It's a
It
challenge.
is.
This is just a
Yes.
it's a parade. Let's everybody enjoy ourselves. But you get people that really want to tell. It's there's an immaturity there um, that I can't even describe. But they really want to make sure that they get their point across that they don't like you because you're Democrat for no other reason than that. So
Yep. So, two final questions. What advice would you give someone not named Tracy, the is in Marlin, advice on about running for office? What's the number one thing that female candidate needs
the number
to
one
do?
thing is it's raise money. That's the one thing. That's the main thing because everything else falls under that. But then also, Tracy, because we had already talked about money, you have to find a core group that you can trust no matter what, because you become a machine and you have to be able to just know that those people have your back no matter what. And, over the course of these years, I have picked up about 10 diehards, people that are with you thick and thin, no matter what. You just give them a call. Hey, we're going here. You want to go, or can you go? Yes, I'll go. Um, and you have to have a very thick skin. And I will say this: you lose a lot of friends anytime you step up. You're going to lose a lot of friends. You're going to have people that are going to discourage you. You have friends that have been your friends for years, but they're your friends because you commiserate together, that you complain together, that life is just cruel, or, you got this bill, and you've gained this weight, or you've done this, or, whatever you're commiserating around, problems at work or whatever, they're your great friend. But when you step up and step away or step up to be run for an office, that's a little bit too much for some people. And you lose those friends because they keep wanting to pull you down to what they can tolerate, what their vision is. So trying to break through their glass ceiling or their vision of you is very difficult at times. And so you have to leave a lot of people behind as you go up and try to get some things done. Um, and the bigger the dream, the fewer people you're going to have that are going to go with you. And
Egg.
that's hard. Yeah.
That can be. Final question: are you planning on being at the July 23rd March for all in Indianapolis? If so, are you willing to be speaker?
Are you doing the one in the July 23rd, the one in Indianapolis, or the one in
Indianapolis we are actually, Indiana is kicking off the entire march. Ours is first, and then the national march in DC is the week after.
Well, I would love to participate. I think that use me in any way you can. I would love to speak or participate. I mean, because that is something I care so much about. Um,
Yep.
I've I've lost friends because of insurance issues. I mean, it's just it has never made sense. And as a doctor who bills, it doesn't make sense. And the continuity of care, and a lot of doctors feel this way. It's hard to keep our patients, whether it's mentally well or physically well, when they're always vulnerable to changes in their insurance or not having insurance or that sort of thing. So it's hard to keep their care consistent,
Yep.
which is really hard. Your health care should never, ever be connected to your employment status. That in itself
Yep.
makes no sense because, for one, when I'm employed, I don't have time to go to the doctor anyway. And when I'm not employed, that's when I really need to go and get checked out and that sort of thing. But it doesn't work that way. Those things
Yep.
should not connect because what happens is you have the people at the bottom end whose jobs are not consistent or their jobs don't even offer insurance, always having these piecemeal relationships with doctors or showing up. They might have insurance one month, might not have it this year, next year they'll have it, but it's not any consistency in care. I have a friend in DC that her insurance stopped. She's it's colon cancer, and her insurance just her job, she had missed enough work where her job let her go, so she couldn't really afford that Cobra thing because now it's way off the roof, and so she literally went a couple months without her chemotherapy, waiting to get
Oh.
on the marketplace and do all that stuff
Yeah.
to be eligible
Yeah.
for that. So
Well.
her care had a gap because of healthcare, and it makes no sense. And I'll say this too, because I've traveled around the world, I've been in those countries and I've seen it work in Canada, I've seen it work in Switzerland, I've seen it work Germany, their systems. We can do better than what we're doing, and we can do it in a way where we're not dealing with these insurance policies that are crazy and they get worse and worse as year goes on.
Yep. So we meet this Sunday, and I think I emailed you the link. But if you can't make the meet Sunday, I'll tell everybody. Oh, she agreed to be the speaker.
All you have to, yeah, let them know I agreed to speak. But all you have to do is just remind me. I don't have my scheduler. Um, is Monique Hinton. She's got to get back on her job. We lost someone at our church, and she's had to. We lost one of our leaders in our church, in our leadership team, and that person was responsible for a lot. So then my person who schedules me also goes to that same church, and so she's had to step in to help out, and so she has less time now to deal with my schedule. But as soon as
Oh,
we
I'll
get
remind
somebody,
you. I
okay,
definitely will.
so yeah,
Saturday morning, I'll be like, we have a meeting. And then Sunday morning, we have a meeting. Trust me, I will remember.
and it takes that with me. I unfortunately, it really does take that with me. I'm just off thumbs when it comes to handling my own schedule. I'm just terrible at it. Terrible. But
Well,
I will overbook and promise stuff, and then Monique would have to go back and back it out and start all over and stuff. But right now, I've slowed down enough. I slowed down after this last election. And one, I had to get back to work because I have to recover financially. So my at least part of my week is stable, and then the rest I kind of can work on. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays is more political stuff and being able to do speeches and do whatever you guys need me to do, whatever
yep,
advances that conversation, I'll help with it.
absolutely. And final question, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Okay, you can always find me at drvaleriemccrae.org. There should be still the old website up. We're in the process of getting the new website up, but that old website is still there. So you get to know me, what I've done, sort of my background, so what my stances are. So drvaleriemccrae.org, all ran together, DrValerimccray.org. So if you pull that up, it'll be there. Just Valerie McCrae. If you type that in, it'll get you to that website. Just join us. And also, if you want to email us, it's Valerie at drvaleriemccrae.org. So we're easy to reach, or you can contact me with Dr. Valerie McCrae, all ran together at gmail.com. So there's a lot of ways to reach me. And also, they can call you, and you can get their information, or however we want to do it. We'll make sure we connect.
Thank you so much. I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. I'm so glad I got to meet you. I'm hoping someday in the future, when you run for Senate again, we can bring you back, or if you decide to run for governor, run
Yeah,
for
when we come
something.
back, we're gonna run up these numbers on your podcast. You got a wonderful thing going here. We got to run up those numbers, get more people to your podcast so that you can blow up and
Well, we're going to be
thousands to
changing our
follow.
focus just a tad smidge, but that announcement comes May 1st. But
So, what's your focus going to change to? Give me a
it'll
heads
still
up.
be politics. Like I said, I can't really tell it because it's not May 1st yet. But May 1st, I'm doing a whole special podcast about what the future holds for this channel. It's exciting. It's exciting news. And I'm trying to just keep it to myself until May 1st. But politics is not going anywhere. No, it's not going to go anywhere.
All right, all right. Be sure to include me on your march, on the Medicare for All March. I want to be included in that.
Absolutely. I thank you so
So
much.
much, and to your audience, thank you so much
Yes,
for
they're
tuning in.
small, but they're faithful. And as Dr. McCrae said, please like this video, share this video. I'll go back in and put her social medias in the description section so that you can contact her. Of course, my Patreon, they know that I will be doing a show Thursday. And tune in for that. Remember to like this page, subscribe to this page, support me on Patreon. Send me to DC. Send me to DC. $ cash app, Tracy Media 74. I'm gonna try to go. I really want to go because I want to engage in the legislatures. I'm glad that Indiana is going to be kicking this off because we totally missed out last year. And I was like, nope, it's not going to happen this year. So, audience, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a great evening, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye
All
bye.
righty then. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
All right. Take